Before you take my dad away, watch what her assistant did in that elevator. 11-year-old Maya Hill held a cracked phone with both hands while Terrence stood handcuffed beneath the glass elevator he had repaired that morning. A red data drive rested inside a clear police evidence bag beside his open toolbox, its star-shaped patch facing the ceiling. Helena Brooks stared at the screen. Ashley Cole stepped forward. That video cannot show what was placed in the left pocket. Maya pressed play. 17 minutes earlier, the lobby had smelled of floor polish, hot wiring, and the faint machine oil clinging to Terrence's Navy maintenance uniform. Fluorescent light slid across the marble floor as he lowered his worn toolbox beside Maya's chair. She was still filming pieces of her school project, The People Who Keep a Building Running, holding the old phone in its blue case at chest height while Terrence checked the elevator panel one last time. He had promised to walk her to school after his shift. They were already late. 2 minutes, he told her, tightening a loose screw beneath the call button. Then we go. Maya nodded and aimed the camera at his hands. Say what you always say. Terrence glanced at her. What do I always say? That buildings don't fix themselves. A tired smile touched his face. People keep things running. Most folks just notice after something breaks. Across the lobby, heels struck the marble in a quick, even rhythm. Ashley Cole approached the security desk carrying a white folder against her tailored gray dress. Her voice remained low and controlled, but her fingers pressed hard enough into the folder to bend one corner. Frank Dalton straightened behind the desk. William Crane stood several feet away, silver-haired and composed, speaking quietly into his phone. Ashley leaned toward Frank. Terrence could not hear every word, only fragments. Missing. Internal audit. Sensitive device. Before the board arrives. Frank's eyes moved across the lobby and stopped on Terrence. Mr. Hill, don't leave the building. Terrence slowly stood. Maya lowered her phone. We were just going to school. This will only take a moment, Frank said, wearing the patient expression of a man explaining a rule to someone expected to obey it. A company device has gone missing. We are checking personnel who had access to restricted areas. Terrence looked at the wall clock, then at Maya. Her backpack was wedged between her sneakers, one zipper repaired with red thread. My badge record will show where I've been. Then you have nothing to worry about. Frank held out his hand for the toolbox. Terrence did not pull it away. He placed it on the security counter himself, keeping his movements slow enough that Maya could see he was not afraid. What time was the device reported missing? Frank's hand paused above the zipper. We are asking the questions. Who authorized the search? William stepped closer, his expression gentle. Mr. Hill, everyone understands this is uncomfortable. Cooperation protects you as much as it protects the company. Terrence met his eyes. Protection usually starts before the search. A printer behind Frank suddenly woke with a mechanical whir. A single sheet slid into the tray, warm at the edges. Maya's phone remained pointed toward the desk, recording the paper as Frank opened the toolbox. He ignored the large center compartment. He ignored the side pouch where Terrence kept his voltage meter. His hand went directly to the small pocket on the left, beneath a pair of insulated gloves. The red data drive appeared between his fingers. The air in the lobby seemed to leave all at once. Maya made a small sound, not quite a cry. Terrence turned toward her before he looked at the drive. Stand by Miss Gloria, he said. Keep breathing with me. Helena Brooks emerged from the executive corridor as Frank raised the device. Her gaze found Terrence, and recognition crossed her face. The man who had helped her out of the stalled elevator only hours earlier. But William spoke before she could. We need to contain this immediately. Frank reached for the handcuffs. Terrence extended his wrists without being ordered twice, but his eyes stayed on Maya. Then Ashley moved beside the open toolbox and said, very softly, don't let him touch the left pocket. Maya looked down at her phone, then back at Ashley. No one had told Ashley which pocket Frank had opened. Maya looked down at the phone, then back at Ashley. How did you know? She asked. Ashley's smile barely moved. Know what, sweetheart? Which pocket? The words were small, but they carried across the marble lobby. Frank's fingers tightened around the red data drive, while the printer behind him finished pushing out the search authorization, its rollers clicking in the sudden quiet. Terrence saw the timestamp before Frank turned the page face down. It had been printed 14 minutes after the search began. "Please take my daughter out of this," Terrence said. "She is already in it," William replied gently. "That is unfortunate, but security cannot ignore evidence because a child is upset." His voice held the polished sympathy of a man offering an umbrella after locking someone in the rain. He adjusted one silver cuff and glanced toward Helena, making sure she was watching his calm rather than Terrence's restraint. "Dad didn't take it, Maya, but I saw. Stand with Miss Gloria." Terrence did not raise his voice. He turned his cuffed hands so Maya could see his palms, then breathed in slowly until she copied him. Gloria James moved beside the girl, her cleaning cart still parked near the elevator, the sharp smell of lemon disinfectant mixing with machine oil and warm printer toner. Around them, employees pretended to check emails while their eyes stayed fixed on Terrence's faded work boots, his patched toolbox, and the cuffs around his wrists. A man near the coffee station whispered that maintenance workers had access to everything. Someone else murmured that Terrence always stayed after hours. Neither of them knew he stayed because the evening contractor had quit and broken elevators did not care who had childcare waiting at home. Frank slipped the drive into a clear evidence pouch. "Mr. Hill, you had possession of restricted company property. You found it in my bag. That is what possession means. Not if someone put it there." Frank gave a patient sigh, as though Terrence had misunderstood something simple. "This is not the time for theories. We follow procedure, document the facts, and allow the appropriate people to review them." Terrence looked at the face-down authorization sheet. "Then document when that paper came out of the printer." Frank's expression did not change, but one thumb covered the lower corner where the time was printed. William stepped closer. "Terrence, cooperation will matter. People will remember whether you made this difficult. My daughter will remember whether I told the truth." Helena's eyes lifted from the evidence bag. For a second, she seemed to hear the man from the stalled elevator, the same steady voice that had counted her breaths through the dark. Then William leaned toward her and spoke quietly about the board, confidential data, and the risk of appearing inconsistent. Her face closed again. "Check his badge history," Helena said. Frank answered too quickly. "We will." "Now," Terrence said. Frank turned toward him. "You do not direct this investigation. My badge can tell you where I was." "Your job gives you knowledge of the building systems," William said. "That makes access more complicated than a simple door log." The words sounded reasonable. That was what made them dangerous. Terrence's skill, the thing that kept hundreds of people safe each day, was being reshaped into proof that he could not be trusted. Miguel Torres stood beside the security monitors, one hand resting on the edge of the desk. His gaze moved from the late-printed authorization to Ashley, then to the left pocket of the toolbox. He opened his mouth. Frank touched the radio clipped to his belt. "Miguel," he said softly, "secure the lobby doors." Miguel's jaw tightened. "Sir, the form?" "The doors." Miguel looked at Terrence, shame passing across his face before he obeyed. The magnetic locks engaged with a heavy click that echoed through the glass walls. Maya flinched. Terrence stepped half a pace closer to her, though the cuffs stopped him from reaching her shoulder. "Look at me," he said. "Not the doors. Me." She did. Her breathing steadied. Ashley folded her hands over the white folder and spoke with careful concern. "Perhaps the child should give us the phone. Watching this may be confusing her." Maya pressed the cracked screen against her chest. Helena noticed Ashley's eyes were not on the frightened girl. They were fixed on the phone. Then Helena looked again at the clear evidence pouch, at the red drive inside it, and finally at the authorization form Frank had turned face down. "Show me the paper," she said. Frank hesitated for less than a second, but it was long enough for Terrence to see William's hand close around the head of his cane. And when Frank finally lifted the form, Helena's gaze stopped on the timestamp printed beneath her electronic approval. an approval issued 14 minutes after the red drive had already been pulled from Terrence's bag. The timestamp held Helena's gaze, and for one quiet second the lobby seemed to tilt beneath her. 14 minutes. Frank had searched Terrence before her approval existed. William began explaining that emergency security decisions were sometimes documented afterward, but Helena barely heard him. The steady way Terrence was calming Maya pulled her back to another frightened voice, another locked door, and the same man kneeling on cold marble 3 hours earlier. The glass elevator had stopped between the 12th and 13th floors with a metallic groan that shuddered through the lobby walls. Helena had been inside alone, dressed in a plain gray coat with her identification badge tucked inside her leather case. The lights blinked once, went dark, then returned in a dim red emergency glow. Her breathing changed before she could stop it. Years earlier, her younger brother had died after being trapped in a failing elevator. She had learned to speak about the accident without trembling, but steel cables and sealed doors still remembered what her voice tried to forget. Terrence had been packing his voltage meter into the worn toolbox with the star-shaped patch when he heard her strike the alarm button twice. Maya sat nearby with her backpack between her shoes, filming the final clips for a school assignment on the old phone in its cracked blue case. "Dad, we're already late." "I know. Is she stuck?" "Looks that way." Terrence checked the panel, listened to the motor housing, then set the toolbox beside the glass wall. He could have called the next shift and left. His time card was already punched, rent was due in 4 days, and Maya had reminded him twice that missing morning attendance again might cost her a place on the school science trip. Instead, he crouched beside the elevator door. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Helena pressed both hands against the glass. "Get me out. I'm working on it. The air is getting thin. The air is fine. Your breathing is running ahead of you." His tone carried no judgment. He sat on the floor so his face remained level with hers through the narrow gap and asked her to place both feet flat. He counted slowly while she followed, one breath at a time. Maya stopped filming her father's tools and watched him. "Is she going to be okay?" "She will be if we don't make her feel alone." Terrence removed the access plate, tested the circuit, and found the relay stuck between signals. His hands moved carefully, not dramatically, the way they did when he repaired a loose cabinet hinge at home or fixed Maya's backpack zipper with red thread. When the emergency release finally answered, the doors opened 6 inches. He braced them, guided Helena through, then handed her the last bottle of water from the lunch bag he shared with Maya. Helena drank with both hands. Her leather case slipped from her arm and struck the floor. Papers slid across the marble, along with a silver binder clip and a sealed envelope marked confidential. Terrence turned every page face down before gathering them. He never paused over the figures or names. He returned the envelope unopened and wiped a streak of machine grease from the silver clasp with his sleeve. "You didn't look," Helena said. "Wasn't mine to read." She offered him cash. Terrence shook his head and checked Maya's watch instead. "Keep it. You just saved me." I opened a door. Ashley arrived moments later, perfume sharp against the smell of hot wiring. She barely glanced at Helena's pale face. Her eyes went to the leather case. Did the technician see what was inside? Helena frowned at the question. Terrence was already closing the panel, giving mother and daughter the silent signal that they needed to leave. Maya lifted her phone again to capture one last shot for school. In the background, Ashley bent beside the waiting bench, picked up a red data drive from near the leg, and slipped it beneath her white folder. No one praised Terrence as he carried his toolbox toward the exit. No one noticed that he gave Maya the unopened granola bar from his own pocket because their shared water was gone. But now, beneath the lobby lights, Helena looked from the late authorization form to Maya's cracked phone and remembered exactly where Ashley had been standing when Terrence chose not to read a single page that was not his, and realized Maya's ordinary school video might have recorded the first moment the official story became impossible. Helena looked from the late authorization form to Maya's cracked phone. "Play it from the beginning." Ashley stepped closer. "Ms. Brooks, the child may have recorded confidential material. Then we will handle it properly." The words were calm, but Helena did not take her eyes off the blue case in Maya's hands. William's expression remained composed. He reminded her that Terrence had repaired the elevator, handled the control panel, and possessed the technical knowledge to exploit blind spots in the building. It was a reasonable concern, which made the red drive in the evidence bag look heavier. Terrence could have accessed spaces most employees did not understand. He could have known where cameras failed. Kindness did not erase physical evidence. Helena turned to Ravi Singh, who had just arrived from the data office carrying a slim laptop and a sealed cable kit. "Can you verify the original file?" "Yes, but nobody touches it until I document the chain." Frank folded his arms. "We are wasting time." "Then answer one question," Terrence said. Every face turned toward him. The cuffs rested against the front of his navy uniform, bright steel beneath the fluorescent lights. He nodded toward the phone. "What time do you say the drive disappeared?" Frank glanced at Ashley. "Approximately 10:05. Maya's forehead tightened. "That's after the morning announcement." Ashley gave her a careful smile. "Sweetheart, people remember times incorrectly when they are frightened." Maya looked at her father instead of answering. Terrence's voice stayed low. "She doesn't have to remember the time." The building said it out loud. Ravi placed the phone on a clean white sheet beside his laptop. Miguel slid it into a clear evidence sleeve, wrote the time across the seal, then signed beneath Ravi's name. The plastic crackled in the still lobby. On the screen, Maya's video began with Terrence's hands tightening the elevator panel, the star-shaped patch on his toolbox visible near the glass. A digital clock above the security desk read 9:42. 1 second later, the elevator chimed. Then the overhead speaker announced the morning visitor restrictions for the executive floors. Ravi paused the frame. "That announcement is automatically scheduled. It also logs on the building server." Frank shook his head. "A phone clock can be wrong." "The phone clock can," Ravi said. "The elevator chime and announcement log cannot both be wrong in the same direction." Helena's gaze moved to Ashley. On the frozen screen, the red edge of the data drive showed beneath Ashley's white folder. The official report claimed it remained secured in the audit room until 10:05. Yet at 9:42, Ashley was already holding it in the lobby. "I was transporting it," Ashley said before anyone asked. Ms. Brooks had requested the files. Helena's eyes narrowed slightly. "I requested the paper audit. The drive was with it." "Who released it from storage?" William answered for her. "There may have been a routine transfer. We should not turn an administrative detail into an accusation." Terrence watched Ashley's thumb rub the bent corner of her folder. He did not accuse her. He only looked toward Frank. "Show the camera feed from 9:40 to 9:45. Frank's jaw tightened. "There is no feed." The lobby seemed to draw a slower breath. "Why not?" Helena asked. "The elevator camera was disabled at 9:30 for scheduled maintenance." Terrence lifted his eyes. "There was no camera maintenance today." Frank gave him a flat look. "You maintain elevators, Mr. Hill. Security systems are outside your authority. The camera power runs through a sealed controller beside the elevator relay. I log every physical shutdown." William stepped between the question and the answer with polished ease. "This can be reviewed later. At present, the device was still found in his possession." Maya leaned closer to Gloria and whispered, "The camera light was on when Dad opened the door. It was a child's observation, nothing more. A tiny red light reflected in glass." Helena heard it anyway. She looked back at the video, where the elevator's camera indicator glowed above Ashley's shoulder. Ravi checked the building log and frowned. "The feed does disappear," he said. "At 9:41. Ashley's response came too quickly. "Only for 11 minutes. Ravi stopped typing. No one had said how long the gap lasted. Helena did not confront her. Not yet. She simply watched Ashley's hand close over the white folder as Terrence turned toward the sealed maintenance cabinet and asked the one question that made Frank's face lose color. If the camera was physically shut down, why is the controller seal still unbroken? The controller seal was still intact. "Then the camera was not shut down here," Terrence said. "That proves nothing," Frank replied. It proves the maintenance story is wrong. The air conditioning hummed above the lobby, suddenly loud enough to hear between breaths. Helena lowered the authorization form onto the security desk with one slow hand, while Maya's shoulders loosened just enough for Gloria to guide her into a chair. Frank recovered first. He adjusted his jacket and turned toward Helena with the measured patience of a man correcting a misunderstanding. The feed may have been disabled remotely. Security sometimes uses administrative access during urgent maintenance. Who used it? Helena asked. We will review that privately. William stepped closer, his voice warm and almost fatherly. There is no need to turn a contained incident into a public spectacle. Mr. Hill has a daughter here. We should protect them both from unnecessary attention. Terence looked at Maya. Her fingers were wrapped around one strap of her backpack, the repaired red stitching pressed into her palm. He could see the question in her face. Were they still taking him away? Can she sit somewhere quieter? He asked. The child is a witness, Frank said. She is 11, Terence answered. Preserve her phone. Do not punish her for having it. Helena's eyes shifted to Ravi. Make a read-only copy of the original file. Document every step. Ravi opened his sealed cable kit and photographed the evidence sleeve before touching it. Miguel signed beneath the seal number. The small printer clicked again as it produced the chain of custody sheet, and this time Helena watched the timestamp appear before anyone signed. William's expression did not change, but the tip of his cane tapped once against the marble. While they do that, he said, perhaps Mr. Hill and I can resolve the employment matter with some dignity. He led Terence into the glass-walled security office without removing the cuffs. On the desk waited a thin settlement packet, a black pen placed neatly across the signature line. William closed the door but left the blinds open. 6 months' salary, he said. No criminal complaint from the company. Assistance with your rent. You sign that you inadvertently mishandled restricted property, and you leave today with your daughter. Terence read the first page, then the second. His eyes paused at the employee number printed beneath his name. When was this prepared? Legal keeps standard forms ready. This one names me. William rested both hands on the silver head of his cane. I am offering you a way home. And the people searched before me? This agreement concerns you. Gloria James? Terence asked. Miguel Torres. William's polite expression cooled by a degree. Do not confuse an opportunity with leverage. Terence looked through the glass at Maya. She was watching Ravi connect the phone to an isolated laptop, her fear no longer wild but still present in the way she held herself too still. 6 months of pay could cover rent, groceries, and the science trip she had stopped mentioning because she knew money was tight. The pen lay close enough to reach even with the cuffs. Terence turned the packet to the final page. This says the search followed approved procedure. It is standard language. The approval came 14 minutes late. A clerical issue. This says, I waive access to the security records. William's voice remained soft. You can feed your daughter, or you can spend the next year trying to prove people acted imperfectly. Terence set the pen back across the paper. A quiet check can feed my daughter for a while. A false statement can hurt someone else for years. Outside the office, the lobby had gone still. Helena was close enough to hear through the partially sealed door. Her hand stopped on the folder she had been lifting. William leaned forward. Do not make this larger than it is. You prepared my settlement before her video was verified. Terence pushed the packet away. That already made it larger. Ravi appeared at the office door. The file is continuous, he said. No edits, no missing frames. The phone metadata matches the elevator chime, the lobby announcement, and the access log to the second. The whispers beyond the glass stopped. Even the scrape of a chair near the reception desk died halfway across the floor. Maya looked at Terence, and he gave her one small nod. Not victory, just permission to breathe. Helena entered the office and took the settlement packet before William could close it. Why was this drafted before we reviewed the video? To limit exposure, William said. There is no reason to reopen that 11-minute gap. Ravi's fingers froze over his laptop. Helena turned toward him. "Did you tell Mr. Crane the gap lasted 11 minutes? No, William's face remained composed, but his grip tightened around the cane. Terence reached for his oil-stained maintenance notebook and opened it to that morning's service page. The camera controller number, seal code, and inspection time were written in his careful block letters. Helena compared the code to the unbroken seal visible through the glass cabinet. Ravi then pulled up the remote access log. One administrative account had created the blackout without touching the controller at all, and it did not belong to Terence, maintenance, or the elevator contractor. It belonged to the head of security. The remote access account belonged to Frank Dalton. For several seconds, no one spoke. The security office was so quiet that the cooling fan inside Ravi's laptop sounded like a small engine struggling under weight. Frank stood beyond the glass wall with one hand near his radio, his face composed, but a line of moisture had appeared beneath his collar. "Administrative access is part of my job," he said. "A login does not prove misconduct." Ravi nodded once. "It proves the blackout was created remotely at 9:41. It also proves Mr. Hill's maintenance account never touched the camera system." Helena looked at Terence's oil-stained notebook, then at the unbroken controller seal. The red data drive rested between them inside its clear evidence pouch, no longer looking like proof of theft. It looked like something deliberately placed. "Check the access badges," she said. William stepped toward her. "Helena, this should move upstairs. There are employees watching." "They watched him get searched." Her voice remained low. "They can watch us verify why." Ravi opened the building access archive. Rows of names and timestamps filled the screen in pale blue light. Terence Hill had entered the maintenance level at 7:08, the lobby equipment room at 8:51, and nowhere else. His badge had never opened the audit floor, the executive records room, or the secured warehouse where Frank claimed the drive had been stored. Ashley's badge appeared at the service elevator at 9:34. Frank's administrator credentials opened the camera console at 9:41. William's badge appeared at the audit warehouse at 1:06 that morning. William did not flinch. "As CFO, I have legitimate access." "At 1 in the morning?" Helena asked. "Quarterly review. Without the audit team?" The printer behind Ravi stopped midway through a page. Its rollers held the paper in place, leaving one white sheet suspended like a thought nobody wanted to finish. William removed his glasses and wiped them slowly with a folded handkerchief. "You are allowing a misunderstanding to become theater." Terence watched Ashley edging toward the elevator corridor. He could have pointed at her. He could have named Frank in front of every person who had whispered about his boots and uniform. Instead, he turned to Miguel. "Do the doors still log attempted exits?" Miguel nodded. "Then preserve that too. Don't accuse anybody until the records are copied." Frank gave a humorless smile. "Still pretending to run security?" "No," Terence said. "Trying to keep the truth from becoming another opinion." Gloria stood near Maya with both hands resting on the handle of her cleaning cart. When Ravi asked whether anyone remembered previous searches, Gloria's fingers tightened. Terence noticed. "You don't have to speak," he told her. "Not unless you feel safe." That permission changed something. Gloria looked at the cuffs still around Terence's wrists, then opened the lower drawer of her cart. Beneath folded trash liners was a worn manila envelope sealed with clear tape. Inside were copies of search reports, some creased, some stained with cleaning solution, all bearing dates from the past 3 years. "Frank told us the originals were routine," she said. "Then people started losing shifts." Miguel moved closer. One report carried his name. Another belonged to a dishwasher who had quit after being accused of stealing a company phone that was later found in an executive conference room. A third belonged to a night custodian suspended for missing gift cards that had never been recovered. Each report had been signed after the search occurred. Each contained the same handwritten note near the bottom. "Per CFO request." Helena read the words twice. Her face reflected faintly in the glass beside William's, hers pale and still, his carefully empty. Ravi's laptop chimed. "There's more." The serial number on the red drive matched the audit archive, but the system showed its contents had been copied to a workstation at 1:13 that morning. The destination device belonged to the CFO's office. That means the data was already duplicated before it was reported missing, Ravi said. Someone did not need to steal the audit. They needed everyone to believe the audit had been compromised. Helena looked at Terrence as if seeing the shape of the trap for the first time. Not a technician stealing secrets. A technician chosen to make the secrets unusable. Ashley's phone vibrated against the white folder. She silenced it too quickly, but the screen had already lit. With a message preview from Frank, "Stop the review. Get Helena upstairs." Terrence saw it. So did Helena. He did not reach for the phone or announce the message to the lobby. He simply said, "Have the officer photograph the screen before it disappears." Helena turned toward the glass doors, where employees, guards, and executives now stood together under the same cold lights. Then she lifted the old search reports in one hand and the evidence pouch in the other. "No more private rooms," she said. "If this company accused people in public, then this company will examine what happened in public." The company atrium had never felt so narrow. Employees stood beneath the glass elevator in quiet rows, while representatives from the board, human resources, outside counsel, and the responding police officers gathered around the security monitors. Terrence remained near Gloria and Maya, his wrists still marked red where the cuffs had pressed into his skin. He did not stand like a man expecting victory. He stood like a tired father who had decided that leaving quietly would only make it easier to choose another man like him tomorrow. Helena placed the clear evidence pouch containing the red data drive on the center table. Beside it, Ravi set Maya's cracked blue phone, the late-printed search authorization, Terrence's oil-stained service notebook, and Gloria's envelope of old search reports. "We will take this in order," Helena said. "No interruptions. No private explanations." William Crane faced the employees with the calm expression he used in quarterly meetings. "What happened today was regrettable," he began. "But a confidential audit device was found in Mr. Hill's possession. Security responded to an immediate risk. Administrative errors do not erase physical evidence." Several people shifted. His explanation sounded careful, reasonable, almost merciful. "No one wants an innocent employee harmed," William continued. "But we cannot rewrite facts because the circumstances are emotional." Maya tightened her fingers around Terrence's hand. He lowered his head toward her. "You only have to say what you remember," he whispered. "Nothing more." Ravi connected the phone to the atrium display. The first image appeared. Terrence's patched toolbox beside the elevator panel. Then Ashley crossing the lobby with the red edge of the drive visible beneath her white folder. "That could be any red device," Ashley said. "And I routinely transport audit materials." For a moment, the explanation held. The screen showed no clear view of her placing anything inside Terrence's bag. Frank folded his hands behind his back. A partial image from a child's phone cannot replace professional security findings. The murmuring began again, softer than before but enough for Maya to hear. Terrence felt her hand tense. "Look at me," he said. She did. "You recorded what happened. You do not have to convince people who have not finished looking." Ravi advanced to the next display. The lobby clock read 9:42. The elevator chime sounded, followed by the scheduled morning announcement. The official loss report claimed the drive remained secured until 10:05. Helena turned toward Ashley. "You were holding it 23 minutes before it was reported missing." Ashley's eyes filled, but her voice stayed controlled. "Ms. Brooks, I was following instructions. Mr. Crane asked me to move the audit materials after the elevator incident." William nodded. "That is correct. The device was likely returned and later taken. There is no contradiction. It was the first retention shift." The explanation placed the red drive in Ashley's hand without proving she framed Terrence. Frank almost smiled. Then Terrence spoke. "If it was returned, which badge opened the audit room?" Ravi brought up the access log. No badge belonging to Ashley, Frank, or Terrence entered the room between 9:42 and 10:05. The only executive badge recorded there had been William's at 1:06 that morning. William lifted his chin. "I am the chief financial officer. My access is neither unusual nor suspicious." "Then the report should say you handled it," Terrence replied. "It names me before anyone searched my bag." Ravi placed a document on the screen. The incident summary had been printed from William's office at 9:31. 11 minutes before Maya's video showed Ashley holding the drive and more than half an hour before it was officially reported missing. Terrence's full name, employee number, and termination recommendation were already typed into the document. The atrium went still. A rolling office chair near the reception desk stopped moving. William's polished calm finally tightened around the eyes. "That was a contingency draft," he said. "Security prepares possible outcomes during sensitive investigations." "Before there was an investigation?" Helena asked. Frank stepped forward. "Mr. Crane did not direct the search. Ashley called me after observing suspicious behavior from Mr. Hill." "From her cell phone?" Ravi asked. "Yes." Ravi opened the communications log. The alert to Frank's radio had not come from Ashley's phone. It had originated from the landline in William's private office. The second retention shift passed through the crowd like a cold current. Helena did not look at Terrence for permission. She looked directly at William. "Who was in your office? Anyone could have used that line. Then we determine who." Terrence glanced toward the employees holding copies of old search reports. "This is not about making them ashamed," he said quietly. "It is about making sure the truth is not buried under another form." Maya tugged once at his sleeve and pointed to the waveform on Ravi's screen. "That tall part is the elevator bell," she said. "Ashley was talking right after it." Ravi enlarged the audio track from her video. 6 seconds of speech were buried beneath the metal chime. He ran the filter once. Static filled the atrium. He ran it again, and Ashley's voice emerged. "It's in his bag. Tell Frank to move." Ashley's face lost its color. William said nothing. Ravi opened a recovered server directory and found a deleted message packet linked to the same 6-second call, the pre-written accusation, and the camera blackout. His hand hovered over the final file. "This one was erased from the CFO's account at 10:07, he said. Then Helena gave a single nod, and Ravi opened it. Ravi opened the deleted file. The atrium screens went black for half a second, then filled with a recovered email from William Crane's account. The message was short. "Create an 11-minute service blackout. Place the audit drive in Hill's maintenance kit. Move before the board arrives." Attached beneath it was the incident summary naming Terrence as the thief before the drive had ever been reported missing. No one spoke. The projector fan whirred above them. Somewhere behind the crowd, an elevator cable settled with a soft metallic click. William's hand tightened around the silver head of his cane. "That document is fabricated." His voice came out dry. Ravi did not answer immediately. He placed the server authentication record beside the email, then opened the login history. "It was sent from your registered device at 9:28, he said. "The session used your password, your security key, and the verification code delivered to your personal phone." William looked toward Frank. Frank lowered his eyes. Ashley still stood beside the security table, but the white folder had slipped from her fingers and rested open against the marble. Helena turned to Ravi. "Show the video again." Maya's cracked phone appeared on every screen in the atrium. The footage rolled from the moment Ashley entered the glass elevator carrying the red drive beneath her folder. The direct view disappeared behind a passing employee, just as it had before. Then Ravi froze the reflection in the glass wall and enlarged it. Ashley's metal bracelet flashed near the patched toolbox. Her fingers opened the left pocket. The red drive disappeared beneath Terrence's insulated gloves. Ravi synchronized the image with the recovered audio. Ashley's voice filled the atrium. "It's in his bag. Tell Frank to move." The timestamp aligned with the call from William's office and the remote blackout created through Frank's account. On the next screen, the search authorization printed 14 minutes after Frank opened Terrence's bag. On another, Terrence's badge record showed he had never entered the audit floor. The evidence did not arrive as one dramatic accusation. It arrived as a chain, each link closing around the lie until there was nowhere left for it to move. The red drive, the child's video, the late form, the unbroken controller seal, the access logs, the duplicated audit file, the pre-written accusation, the deleted email. William opened his mouth, but no words came. A pen rolled from the legal counsel's folder and struck the floor. The small sound carried through the entire atrium. Helena stepped away from the executive table and faced the police officers. "Remove the restraints from Mr. Hill." One officer unlocked the cuffs. The metal opened with 2 quiet clicks. Terrence did not rub his wrists. He did not look at William, Frank, or Ashley. He crossed the few feet to Maya and lowered himself in front of her. The phone was still trembling between her hands. He covered it gently with his own. "You don't have to be the grown-up anymore," he said. "The adults have the truth now." Maya released a breath that seemed to have been trapped inside her since Frank opened the toolbox. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against her father's shoulder. Terrence held her without turning the moment into a victory. Behind them, Helena ordered William's access revoked, Frank's security credentials disabled, and Ashley's company devices preserved. She directed outside counsel to transfer every record to law enforcement and announced that no employee connected to the investigation would be allowed to delete, alter, or remove a single file. William tried once more. "Helena, you are making a decision in front of frightened employees." Helena looked at the workers gathered beneath the glass elevator. Gloria still held the old search reports. Miguel stood beside the locked doors. More than a dozen employees watched from behind uniforms, carts, name badges, and folded hands. "No," Helena said. "I allowed a decision to be made in front of them. Now I am correcting it in the same place." She turned to Terrence. "Mr. Hill, this company accused you publicly before verifying the facts. You were searched without valid authorization, restrained in front of your daughter, and treated as guilty because the people responsible believed your position made you easy to sacrifice. You are cleared of every allegation." Terrence stood, keeping one hand on Maya's shoulder. He could have demanded that William be dragged through the same lobby. He could have forced Ashley to look at every face in the crowd. Instead, he glanced toward Gloria's worn envelope and the employees behind her. "I had a daughter with a camera," he said. "They had no one." Gloria removed her employee badge and placed it on the security table. Miguel followed. Then another worker stepped forward, and another, until 13 name badges lay beside the red drive. The atrium remained silent, but the silence had changed. It was no longer the silence of people watching a maintenance worker being taken away. It was the silence of a company realizing Terrence had never been the only victim. Helena looked at the badges, then at the old reports in Gloria's hands. "This does not end with Mr. Hill's name being cleared," she said. "Every search, suspension, and disciplinary action connected to this system will be reviewed independently." Terrence looked down at the fading red marks around his wrists. The truth had returned his freedom, but it had also placed something heavier before him. A public apology, a possible settlement, and the power to decide whether this victory would belong only to him or become protection for the people standing behind him. The atrium emptied slowly, not with applause, but with the careful silence of people leaving a room where something permanent had changed. Police officers escorted William, Frank, and Ashley away from the security desk while outside counsel sealed their devices, copied the server logs, and placed the red data drive beside Maya's phone in separate evidence containers. Terrence watched only long enough to know the process would continue without his anger guiding it. Then he crouched beside Maya and asked whether she wanted water, food, or simply to go home. "Home," she whispered. "But not yet." She looked toward Gloria and the 13 employee badges still resting on the table. 1 week later, the same atrium held a different kind of gathering. The glass elevator moved quietly behind the employees, its camera light steady above the doors. Helena stood without William beside her and without Frank controlling the monitors. An independent attorney, a labor representative, and members of the board occupied the front row. "Terrence, remained near the back in his Navy maintenance uniform, his repaired toolbox at his feet and Maya beside him in her school sweater. Helena did not begin with the company's reputation. She began with names. Gloria James,
Miguel Torres,
Samuel Price, Denise Walker. One by one, she read the names of employees who had been searched without proper authorization, suspended without complete evidence, or pressured into signing reports after decisions had already been made. With each name, a corrected personnel record appeared on the screen. Lost wages would be restored. Improper disciplinary notices would be removed. Legal support would be provided where necessary. Security searches would now require documented cause, an independent witness, and preserved footage. No single administrator would control camera blackouts again. Helena's voice remained steady, but her hands rested flat against the podium as if she understood that regret was lighter than responsibility. "Mr. Hill," she said, "this company offered you a private settlement before it offered you the truth. You refused because the agreement protected you while leaving others exposed. That decision revealed more about your character than any title I could give you." Terrence walked forward only when she asked. The settlement documents had been rewritten without a silence clause. He would receive compensation for the unlawful search, lost hours, and the harm done in front of Maya, but he signed only after the same process was open to the other affected workers. He declined an executive position Helena's advisors had suggested. Instead, the employees elected him to a limited term on an independent workplace safety committee while he continued as a maintenance technician. "I know how to keep systems running," he said. "That does not mean one person should own them." Helena nodded. She did not ask for forgiveness. She announced that her own decisions would be reviewed by the outside investigators and that the final report would be shared with employees. Her second chance would not depend on Terrence declaring her a good person. It would depend on what she did after everyone stopped watching. Maya's phone was returned after the evidence copy had been secured. The cracked blue case looked smaller in her hands now. Terrence closed her fingers around it and said, "You told the truth. You were never supposed to carry the whole case." That afternoon, Maya played her finished school project on the atrium screens. It did not include the handcuffs, William's email, or Ashley's reflection. The final scene showed Terrence kneeling inside the glass elevator, tightening a loose metal plate while Gloria approached with her cleaning cart. He heard the wheels, stood, and held the door open for her. The toolbox with the star-shaped patch sat beside his boot. Once, it had been opened as if worn fabric and grease proved the man carrying it could not be trusted. Now it looked like what it had always been, the working life of a father who repaired what other people used without noticing. When the video ended, the room became quiet again. This time no one was frozen by guilt or fear. They were simply looking at the people whose hands kept the lights on, the floors clean, the doors moving, and the building safe. Helena met Terrence near the elevator afterward. "Thank you for giving us the chance to make this right," she said. Terrence lifted the toolbox onto his shoulder. "Protect the next person before they need a child to press play." He and Maya crossed the lobby toward the bus stop outside. There was no new car waiting, no crowd following them, and no oversized check held up for a photograph. The evening light stretched their reflections across the glass doors. Behind them, Gloria called, "Good night, Terrence." A new security officer held the door open, and several employees answered her by using his name. Maya slipped her hand into her father's. The toolbox was still old, the phone was still cracked, and their bus was still 3 minutes late. But dignity had never needed to arrive loudly. Sometimes it simply waited inside the truth until kindness gave it a way to be seen.